mean, you know, there's been many sessions before me, and people have got to touch on, you know, many areas of your career as a product manager. So I just want to do my own bit and hopefully, you know, takes us far. So yeah, let's get to it. It's so many good stuff.
I've made you co-host now, so you can share your screen.
You say?
I said I've made you co-host now, so you can share your screen.
Okay, fair, good stuff. How much time do we have? Because it looks like I have.
Yeah, you have about an hour, 30 minutes, and then we'll have 15 minutes of question and answers. If you have a take-home assignment for them too, we can just talk about that in maybe 5 minutes, and then we should be done.
Okay, fair. Oh, hello. So, yeah, all right. Oh, I think I have to. So apparently I reinstalled Zoom, yeah, and I have to grant it all the permissions again. So you guys give me a bit. I'm going to join back. Did you guys get that?
Yes, we did. Thank you.
Yes, we did.
Miss Gladys, I thought there will be no assignment this week because of the other one.
I don't know what you're talking about. You only had 1 week. I mean, the 1 week is over. Things are back. They're back and better.
No, wow. No, wow.
No break for world-class product manager.
Okay, you need to make me a host again. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So I may not have my video on, one, because of internet, and two, because my house is a mess. I was doing some cleaning over the weekend, so my curtains are down and stuff. So yeah.
Let me know if are you a co-host now?
Yeah, I can share my video now.
All right, all right.
Thank you. Okay, you should be able to see my screen right now.
Yes, perfect.
All right, so let's get to it. Hi guys, my name is Josiah. Josiah, like Gladys has introduced me. In my day-to-day right now, I work on SMAG. SMAG is an escrow. I'm not well settled with called the CEO yet because I spent most of my life writing code. So yeah, founder is still fine. At least I've done that before. So yeah, let's get to it. So I'll be talking to you guys on essentials of software development for product managers. Yeah. So I think by and large, you know, product managers and developers tend to work side by side a lot. And, you know, we have the same job at the end of the day is to make sure we push out product that has bugs to the users. And so they keep communicating with us. And we are all on different ends of the same spectrum. And over time, over the course of your career as product managers, you have many interactions with many software development teams, many developers. You would fight a lot with your CTO and other developers. You would fight with your CEOs. You would fight with other product managers because basically product managers like to fight. That's my own assumption. I know you guys are more than me on this call, but like, I don't think there's anything I can do about it. That's an introduction to software development generally. We look at how the internet works. We look at how modern apps are developed, and we look at the roles of product managers in the software development process. And finally, how to best manage and collaborate with software developers. So let's go. Software development is basically the process of designing, coding, testing, and maintaining software applications, systems, and programs. It's simple. I have this lengthy definition because I studied computer science and this was what they gave us. So I'm giving you guys. Yeah, basically we have a continuing system where technology evolves daily, and as such, we need to, well, we don't need to, we just decide that we want to continue building apps every day to continue to chase technology, or just, just change the shapes and the colors of buttons. So we just have to keep doing it. And as product managers, your responsibility is primarily transforming ideas, data, and human efforts to product, basically coordinating every single bit of every single requirement of every single resource available to product at the end of the day. And to do that, you have to understand the intricacies of software development. Well, it helps a lot to understand it, because you would have to communicate between people who are in software development spheres and people who are in business spheres. So it helps to have one fit in both and to be able to know, the best of all worlds. So yeah, software engineering is basically, by definition for most people, the iterative process through which software comes out. So it involves a lot of communication and implementation. Like today you are talking, tomorrow you are doing, the next day you're talking and doing. Because of, it's a lot of things that overlap. There's many ways it can be structured, and the most common ones that you probably have already heard, like, right? You guys probably have heard Agile and Waterfall throughout the course of this. Then I'm right. I'm like certain you've heard it, because my notes depends on you people having heard it. Agile.
We had a 2-hour class on Agile.
Okay, fair, thank God. All right. Nice. 2-hour class. Yeah, then I can skip my next 3 slides. Okay.
No. Walk us through it.
So Agile, as we all know, is iterative and incremental. So it's like we focus on one bit of this, we go on through the whole cycle, design, development, testing, pick up the next feature, do the same thing, design, testing. If there's anything, go back to the beginning and start all over again. So I think this is the universal symbol for Agile, because it's like can go in any direction. Besides this frequent feedback, short development cycles, very popularly known as sprints and cross-functional team. So one team can have, I don't know, they may have taught you team structure, but one very common team structure is like Spotify squad. So one team can have one of each person, have their own PM, have their own lead, have their own deployment systems too. So that's what Agile is all about. Waterfall, on the other hand, is finish what you're doing before you go for the next one, basically. Each phase is taken as an individual step, an individual activity, is implemented from start to finish and handed off. So handoff documents are very common. Handoff meetings are also very common in a waterfall situation. Agile is very common when you're working with teams that have enough resources to hire everybody in-house, hire everybody across team. Waterfall is more common with people who, a good example where you use waterfall is you're a CEO, you're a CEO who is good at marketing. You're not good at tech, you're not good at design. You would hire a designer, you talk to them, you would flesh out your requirements and all with them. They visualize it, you carry that design and you start looking for an engineering team or a software consultancy company. So if you guys cannot at any point hear me, just let me know in the chat. So waterfall is wrap up everything, hand over to the next step and move on. So pretty common, well-known stuff. Now, how the internet work, wires, radios, and things like that. So if I ask you to assume how the internet works, very few people will get it. Believe me, it's not even because we are not technical. Very few engineers know how the internet works, because basically it's like really, really basic theoretical stuff. So think of the internet as basically just connecting stuff. Think of it like a board with pins representing your individual computers and individual subnetworks and threads connecting each of those pins. Yeah, it's that simple. Components of the internet is, and of course, the connection is to share information and information basically. And information, surprisingly, has evolved to be anything from text to pictures to videos to money. So components of the internet are client, server. Remember, client, server, you'll be seeing a lot of this in this conversation, client, server. IP addressing. IP addressing is how your systems or how systems across networks know who they are talking to. So in a network, each system is given an IP address, and based on your IP address, I know who I'm communicating to. The reason you can be on this conversation is because Zoom somewhere stores your system's IP address or an ID associated with your IP address, created a VoIP system, and basically from my words, it buffers it, sends it to Zoom. Zoom buffers it and sends it to all the people whose IP address are subscribed to that channel. So very simple stuff. Protocols define how and to who communications go. So for example, protocols, think of protocols as like code words used between friends or slangs used in a particular region. I'm pretty certain if you should go from, I live in Ibadan, so if you should move from Ibadan to Port Harcourt, for example, you would have a very hard time settling in. Actually, when I moved from Jos to Ibadan, I had a hard time settling in. I could speak Yoruba, but there was so many things you did not get, so many colloquial, so many slangs, so many, think of protocols as those kind of things you must get to participate in a conversation. Routers are devices, physical, actual devices that manage communications and connections. So they think of routers as like terminals, like bus stations that, direct the flow of communication. Domain name system is something everybody on this call should be involved. I'm certain everybody at one point in time tried to set up a blog somewhere or try to be an influencer. Sorry, influencer. I said influencer. An influencer. And they tried to set up a blog or something. So yeah, you probably have encountered domain name system. Domain name system is how your www.google.com works, because ordinarily your Mr. Any, hi. I greet you, sir. I can see you. Domain name system is how your www.google.com works, because ordinarily, Google server is indexed in using an IP address. So they have a block of IP address that they use, and after that, yeah, exactly, product10.com, because you have a domain. If not, you probably have to remember 192. Actually, let's even do it on this call, Seth.
Well, we don't have product10.com yet, but it's in the works. Maybe we should say big Google.
Let's use Smart.
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, let's use Smart.
Let's use Smart. Okay, so www.usesmart literally .com. You guys can hear me, yeah? Because this who is lookup is taking forever.
It was lagging a bit, but I think you're back now.
Yeah, it gave me basic info. Yeah, so basically the IP address would be ordinarily, if not for DNS, to use SMART, you'd have to go to, where is the IP address? Supposed to have it. Oh, nice. Nice. This thing is very secure. Nice. I'm proud of myself. Anyways, I did that. Yeah, so technically you can see our IP address. That's good. So yeah, ordinarily, if you did not have DNS, usemark.com will not work. You'd have to load a 192 or 222.something code. Now the World Wide Web is a link between networks and other networks. So here's how the internet on your own level works. Now, when you connect with your ISP, your internet service provider, e.g. MTN, those people would add you to a network that they have. Sure, you get. Now, they have networks that are connected to networks of bigger ISPs, e.g. AOL, America Online, Vodafone, those kind of guys have their own networks. Sure, you get. I don't think any of our local provider has networks that are big enough to directly buffer most of the internet. So So when you get that connection, being in MTN's network means you are connected to everything else MTN's network is connected to. So technically, you are not connected directly to a guy in China or a guy in Asia or a guy in wherever it is. You are connected to MTN network, and MTN network is connected to other things. That is why federal government can direct Nigerian ISPs to shut down Twitter, and all they need to do is disconnect Twitter's network or Twitter's block of IP address from their network, and you will not be able to access it. Basically, that's that. Or they just submit a request to their own providers, their own ISPs, yeah, to block this kind of request. And yeah, so that won't work. So that's how that works. Also, if they ever ask you, the internet is a duplex. Now, what is a duplex? A duplex is a communication channel that has two parties, and those two parties can send information at the same time. For example, if I start talking, as I'm talking, and Gladys starts talking, the Zoom won't stop buffering my speech because her speech is on. They would collide, and you'll be hearing the two of them together. Albeit that won't make sense, but you will hear the two of them together. So that's what a duplex is. There are different communication channel types. There's simplex, there's duplex, there's multiplex. But for the sake of our conversation, the internet is a duplex. Yeah. Yeah. So internet protocols. So all of these are memes, and I'm not going to explain them. You have to understand. I will explain the internet protocols, and then if you understand the internet protocols, you will understand the memes. So TCP UDP is basically the internet definition of how packets are transferred. The internet, as we know today, uses TCP for the large. I think WebSockets use UDP. I'm not certain, but like it varies. There's like implementations of that uses UDP. Voice packets, voice calls use UDP. That's why they can be jumbled up. UDP do not order the packets. They send. So here's how UDP works. On the client, on the sender side, UDP breaks down the messages into packets. UDP sends it randomly without any order to the receiver. The receiver is supposed to receive all of it, wait till he receives all of it, and then piece everything together to get the full picture. TCP, on the other end, breaks it down into chunks and sends it into the receiver in order that they are supposed to be reassembled. So if packet 10 has not gone through TCP-wise, packet 11 cannot go through. However, with UDP, packet 10 may be sent and waiting, and it has already sent 11 to 30 already. So that's that. IP is internet protocol, basically IP address. It defines who you are communicating to. Yeah, it defines, it's how your internet, your messaging system knows where to send this message to. Basically, where do the packets go? That is basically what IP is, and that's what defines your IP address. HTTP, HTTPS. I can literally go to the next one. You probably already know what HTTP is. Request response system based on TCP/IP. Client send requests to server, and server processes them and returns a response. So HTTP tries to introduce some kind of order in the TCP/IP system by making it such that, clients send requests, send, servers receive requests, and everything flows like that without having to worry about many of the implementations. Another thing you will know about HTTP is stateless, meaning when you send a message on HTTP and the server receives the message, that connection ends. HTTP does not keep your connection. So every single communication is a new connection in HTTP. That's why things like access tokens are a thing. That's why you have to log in, and then your system stores your access token. Yeah. Oh, most of your systems probably do not know that you log in forever if they don't keep the access token. So that's how you manage states. So FTP is like HTTPS, but it's stateful, and connections can live for a while. FTP is useful for file servers and also for hosting servers, traditional hosting servers, your normal cPanel and the rest, you literally have to move your files from your local device to those servers. At the end of the day, hosting on servers is actually files moving. So yeah, FTP does that. Now, one thing that you see constantly throughout your interaction with computers and with computer systems are the terms client and server. But think about it this way. A client is a system that initiates a request for data, and the request usually includes how the data is formatted, the type of the data, and basically all of that. The server receives the data, processes the client's request, and returns a response containing what the client wants. Now, the server-client communication is a continuous cycle, meaning it's not just the sending once and that's all. From the moment you open your app, like WhatsApp, apart from you typing a message and sending it, a lot of things happen under the hood. WhatsApp fetches messages, fetches people's profile pictures, fetches people's statuses, does a lot of analytic data. You click on your setting, it sends a request. You click on somebody's picture, it sends a request. You click on this, it sends a request. There's like endless communication that happens. So yeah, it makes up the whole client-server model. Oh yeah, your phone is the client and your server up there is the server. So keep going and a lot of back and forth information exchange. Now, data transmission between the client and the server is based on agreed protocol for data structure format and communication pattern, meaning there's endpoints that WhatsApp clearly defines that if you know it and you send messages to those endpoints, you don't have to send it inside the WhatsApp app. You can send it from another API client. And as long as the message is the way the server expects, the server will reply accordingly. So that's the thing. The server does not know. WhatsApp server does not know that this app communicating to it is WhatsApp app, except of course, included in the header, included in the encoding. So yeah, and usually most times it doesn't matter to the implementation when it does its thing. The usual protocol for the internet communication is TCP and IP, like I've said before. Remember, TCP and IP, TCP is how packets go, IP is where the packets go. How modern applications are developed, think codes, meetings, coffees, and a lot of documentations. So at any point, if you have a question, like just let me know if you need something to be explained. So so there are two like major classification of applications. There's domain applications and there's system-based applications. So the rain has got two more. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, very clear.
Okay. So there's two major classifications of applications, domain applications and system-based applications. Now, although the technologies used in developing applications can differ based on the system being developed for the specific requirements of the application, the process through which apps are developed and evolved by and large is the same. So we'll still get to SDLC and then we'll look at the differences between web and mobile applications. So for most of the systems you'd work with, they'll probably be web apps or mobile apps. Very few of you will be blessed to work in systems where you work with like real-time app and mission critical apps, like the apps that are used to schedule airplanes and to monitor the coordinates of aircraft. Very few people ever get to work on those in their life. We probably work most of us on consumer applications, those kind of stuff. And the thing about web app and mobile app is they have a lot in common. One thing they have in common is they usually require a server or some backend infrastructure, meaning for every single app that you use, well, for most apps, VoidPed does not have a server, surprisingly. For every single app that you use, there's usually, most times, a backend infrastructure. Apps that have things like, saving content, saving images, communicating with people, receiving and sending notifications, almost always, more often than not, has a server somewhere that they work with. Web apps are, usually the platform for which web apps are built are web browsers such as and web host OS, supposed to be web browsers and web-based OSs such as LG WebOS. So if you use an LG TV, your and Hisense and a number of other TV brands, your TV OS is web-based. So technically the apps you make for your TV would by and large just run HTML and CSS like every normal app. Platforms for mobile applications are smartphone OSs such as Android and iOS. I think very easy stuff. Now, while we use HTML, CSS, and plain old JavaScript for web applications, for mobile applications, the tools used depend a lot on the app in question. Kotlin for Android, Swift for iOS. If you are young, if you are Gen Z, if you are old, Java for Android, Objective-C for iOS. And then if you are actually like really old, then it's like the very first version of Android where it was like just XML, and I don't even know what iOS was then. So yeah. But other than that, mobile applications are usually built based on the platform that you're building for. Now, of course, things would always get better, and most of the efforts that go into apps is to build better developer experience. Now, one way that we've seen that happen for web applications is creation of frameworks such as React and Vue, and that's all. I don't like calling the third guy because I don't like him. But yeah, Angular, he's inside. So that's that. And also for mobile developments too, we've seen a lot of improvements, especially cross-platform technologies like the very, very amazing React Native, like Ionic, and then the third guy too, whose name I have to call because basically I have to give you complete information, Flutter. So yeah, similarities and differences between web app and mobile applications there. And now one of my favorite things to think about and talk about is SDLC. So most of the things you're going to do in software engineering would be working around the SDLC. The SDLC is an upper, very high level representation of how stakeholders communicate, how information travel, and the steps involved in building a software. Yeah, thank you very much, Rukeya. SDLC means software development lifecycle. Yeah, I mean, you guys should have seen that before now. Like Gladys, you provided on that 2 hours class, right? Help me out here.
Yeah, just continue.
No, because the time I was preparing this slide and I got to this SDLC part, I was already tired. So it's just one slide. It's not too much. So
no, I trust you explain it well.
I'm really praying on that 2 hours class right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So planning and requirement gathering is usually done by meeting with stakeholders. So yeah, like I said, cold coffee meetings and a lot of documentation. So it's a lot of meetings. It's going to be a lot of meetings from you meet with clients, you meet with existing users. So it's like if you're building an app for service providers, for example, an app for hairdressers, you're going to meet with the hairdressers themselves. You're going to meet with the people that go to the hairdressers themselves. You're going to meet with people that sell stuff to the hairdressers themselves. You're going to meet with, basically all the people who you think can be possible stakeholders. You're going to meet with people who open hairdressing salons but don't actually work there, like financiers of those businesses. You're going to meet with all those kind of people. And you're going to, by and large, in those meetings, your purpose is simple: listen and gather information, gather requirements, gather their pain point, listen to what they want, listen to what they experience. Well, actually, not what they want. So I think it was Henry Ford, that said, if I've asked people what they wanted, they would have said they wanted faster horses. But at the end of the day, they don't need faster horses. They need a faster way to move from place to place. So basically, listen to people's pain points, and then based on that, based on your ideas, you can come up with what would be requirements for the system you're trying to build, because really most times people do not know what they want until it is standing in front of them. So when you gather the requirements, you now analyze the requirements based on the problems you've identified. that would lead you to be able to narrow down what would make it to your product at the end of the day and what would not. After that, you go on to make abstract designs. Abstract designs include everything from wireframes to system designs, UI, UX, very common. Everybody knows system designs is not very common. Many people know it, but you may know them, diagrams, data flow diagrams, use case diagrams, and you can even take stuff to like more advanced stuff like system architecture, yeah, and maybe even model diagrams, those kind of stuff. There's so many stuff that come on that system design, but the what's it called? The skill here is to know what you need for your specific application that you're building. You don't need to do everything all the time. Most times, I get by just doing ELDs. If I do ELDs and I hit up one of my PM friends to work on 1 or 2 flows for me, we have a number of conversations, and I reach out to a designer guy, they do UIs for me, I think I can start building for me. I'm not saying it's a convention. So after designs are agreed on, then yeah, pretty much implementation can begin. You can start working on it, especially if you're like working in an agile system where there will still be feedback. So you want to start implementing as soon as possible so you can start getting those feedbacks and start running through the whole process again. And as you implement, or when you're done implementing, testing happens to ensure that the implementation is consistent with the requirements. So testing is where QA comes in, E2E testing, unit testing, regression testing, what else again? Integration testing, yeah. So unit testing is basically testing of individual modules and individual components. So let's assume you have an app that, when the user signs up, the user gets an email that says, oh, welcome to Smart, this and this and that. Yeah, so a unit test is a test to test that singular function of sending email. Does this function, if I pass a email address, a full name, will I get an email that says, welcome to Smart, that's unit test. Integration test is a test to ensure that when the modules come together, they work well. Meaning it's to ensure that the system, the process from signing up that calls that email sending model, calls it successfully and calls it well. That's integration test. Regression test is a test to make sure your app fails gracefully. So regardless of who is building it, you'd have issues in your systems. And I don't know if any of you have noticed, but WhatsApp has been very buggy lately. So many messed up bugs. The audio of one status going to the next status to on iOS. I did not see it on Android, but on iOS, you start typing, and then when you are done typing and you close it, your keyboard still stays open, and a number of other bugs like that. So it's like all of those are things that happen when you do not do correct regression tests. When there's a test, when there's an error, you test for possible error cases. Can my app handle it? Set up upload disappearing. Thank you very much. It's like, so I had this conversation with somebody and we're like, I posted a status here, and then I was like, oh, Chu, did you see this? I was trying to make reference to it. And then my friend thought I blocked her from seeing my status. I was explaining that it's not like that. And in her presence, I posted like 2 more statuses. I actually got 1 out of the 2. So I was like, it's on WhatsApp, it's not me. So regression testing makes sure your system degrades carefully and not in a way that is breaking scenarios are handled well. And the last one is end-to-end testing. End-to-end testing tests the app the way the user would use it. So you write your end-to-end test code to simulate everything user clicking in. Basically, you don't just, when you're writing end-to-end test code, let's say, for example, you want to test a form where the user puts their username and password. Now you can write code to just set the username and password. You don't do that. You want to make sure when you click it, the focus is focused. You want to make sure when you type a letter comes in with the right font and everything. So that's what end-to-end testing does. Yeah. So testing is to make sure everything is in line with your requirements. Now, after testing, what do? You push your product to production or launching like many people do. I do not like the idea of launching per se, because I feel, it's something that it does not bode well with new products and with small upcoming teams. So I feel launch is for Apples that can afford to do Apple events. But other than that, please push your product to production, release it, and start maintaining it and getting feedback. And based on the feedback you get in the monitoring and maintaining phase, you rinse and repeat. So software is never really done. I think that's one takeaway from SDLC. Wow, this is very impressive. I skipped all my software engineering class in school, so it's amazing I can teach it like this. Roles and responsibilities of a product manager in the software development process. Summarily, Jira, Confluence, Trello, and what's the update for today? So I can skip this session. We're all done. It's very, very simple. Like, yeah. But really, seriously now. The roles of a product manager on a software engineering is categorized into requirement gathering and prioritization, basically. Jira. Feature definition, that's where you write a lot of documents, you do this and do that, to describe and describe and describe and describe and describe and describe and describe a lot of descriptions. And yeah, that's where your Confluence comes into play, and coordination of collaboration between stakeholders, including customers, developers, designers, and QA team. What's your update for today or for this week or for wherever? So yeah, while I think most times you spend a large portion of your working day doing the communication, but I think the make and break for PMs at the end of the day, again, my assumption, my conclusion, I think the make and break for you as a PM at the end of the day is your, what I call that feature definition. So it's like, based on what you have gathered as your requirement, you should be able to objectively know what should go into your feature and what should not. You should be able to decide, make a decision, because at the end of the day, working on software, the answer to a lot of things is it depends. But then you should be able to, based on the information in front of you, actually determine, oh, yeah, this feature would be a good one to work on. This feature would be a bust. So, yeah. Requirement gathering involves actively engaging with stakeholders, conducting market research, data gathered are documented and analyzed. Requirement must match product vision and ensure satisfaction. So as you know, users, economists will say users, human needs are, human wants are unlimited, yeah, but means are limited, yeah, unlimited ends and scarce means. Yeah. No, I was trying to remember. I was going to remember. Yeah. No. Thank you, Alabi. I was going to remember. I was going to remember. I'm smart like that. So yeah. So you have to make sure the requirements you gather are not just like balloon stuff. They have to be realistic. They have to match the product vision, and they have to actually ensure customer satisfaction. Well, to an extent, because then people don't be satisfied in this life. So yeah, feature definition based on the requirement. Man, I was really tired when I was beginning. Based on the requirement and your understanding of user behavior, you can determine what feature goes into the product. And your role after doing that is to properly document and to ensure there's no ambiguity in, the feature. So people clearly know what this feature is, why the team is working on this feature, and, what the process of working on the feature would be. It helps to prevent the team from working on redundant feature. I think the major problem that happens on software engineering team is not really that work does not get done, is that people do redundant work. People spend a lot of time working on what does not directly influence the product and what does not make any difference for them at the end of the day. You don't want that. You don't want that to happen with your product and with your team. You want things to actually move, well, not always fast. Yeah, fast, but also steady, also concise and with clarity. Yeah. And lastly, communication. role as a product manager is to act as a source of truth for multiple collaborators and stakeholders. They still want something, they hit you up. The tech lead wants a clear understanding of this feature or this product, they hit you, the product person, up. It involves managing communication channels, multiple communication channels. That's where the entire Slack and whatever it is coming to play. It involves, of course, you'd have multiple channels for different people, the channels through which you talk to stakeholders, business, and otherwise, it's different from the channels to which you talk to developers. Developers are more Slack and Jira and whatever it is, very straightforward communication. Business people are more of emails and weird meetings. Sometimes you may have to go and meet them on like golf courses or something, just random stuff. So yeah, you have to be good at all those channels and explore multiple means of communication and collaboration to ensure the project stays on track. So as you begin to work on your project or your product, you would ensure that you would see that you have multiple requirements from different people, meaning how Josiah communicates will be different from the way Alabi communicates, will be different from the way Gladys communicates, will be different from the way Rose communicates. Your work as a PM will be to harmonize all of that and be able to come up with this that works for most of your team. That's how you help to set team culture. So there's teams that you join and you just feel, oh, this is how they do stuff. You begin to be like them, and over time it rolls off for you. And even after you leave that team, you just find yourself doing it that way because that's the way we did it at this place. Yeah, that's like one of the things that help to build that kind of team culture. Actually setting communication means and systems that meet people exactly where they are. Yeah. How to manage and collaborate with developers, stand-up, retrospective, and the endless developer PM battles. So let me prepare you. As you go into the world, you will fight with developers. It is like normal. I can't even lie. I would be doing you a disfavor if I lied to you about it. It's like, but I think at the end of the day, the crazy thing about it is the battles even continue off work. It's like people can meet yourself in the bar and you still continue fighting. It can get that bad. Like, yeah, it's a norm, but it's a very messed up norm. Permit me to use the word. But I feel you can get along fine, psych, or you can at least reduce the bickering and you guys can be on the same page for most of the time. Remember, you have the same work to make sure you push the most bulky product out as possible. Yeah. So you need to work together to achieve that goal. So one thing to remember is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to communication, and communication means and methods generally would depend on the team size, the team structure, and the individuals involved. And so, yeah, let's just go into how to avoid fighting. One, let engineers be engineers. I cannot stress this enough. The average engineer just wants to wake up in the morning, open their laptop, read about the newest tech stuff, use those newest tech stuff to do nothing particularly important, achieve nothing, eat, and go to sleep, and probably get paid for that. Yeah. So, yeah, let engineers be engineers. Now, of course, if you let engineers be engineers, they will not get any work done. So we're going to get to that eventually, but for number one, let engineers be engineers. Number two, communicate context with engineering managers and tech leads. There's people like me who have successfully, because, I don't know, maybe, just I'm gifted and stuff. Or, you've worked so much with PMs and product people, and you've always actually been a product person yourself. You just happen to be good with engineering. You evolved so much so that you know how to manage that communication channel with as little bickering as possible. Don't get it wrong. I still fight with PMs. It's something they teach you. I'm pretty certain after my lecture, the next lecture will be how to fight engineers or something, but I'll do my best. So yeah, communicate with engineering managers and tech leads. And basically communication should be, context should be, now with engineering managers and tech leads, your communication should be wide, very, very high level. Should cover as many things as possible. Should cover business use cases, should cover the requirements you get from customers, should cover everything. Go deep and go wide. Go as far as you can. Tell them everything. They have to understand what you're saying so that they can carry that context and give it to their engineers. If not, you would have a problem. So make sure engineering managers and engineering leads understand what you're saying. That's that. And then the very next thing is set very clear expectations. At the end of the day, for very well-structured teams, when you set expectations, you're not setting expectations for individual developers, you're setting expectations for teams. So it's like, okay, there's this squad. I want you guys in squad A16C, random word. You guys are going to work on, let's assume you're working at Spotify. You're going to work on making the Spotify homepage to look more scattered. You are going to add a now playing button to my list. You are going to add a now playing button to the playing tab. You're going to add your library to the left side and also add a now playing button to that place. That's literally what Spotify looks like at the moment. So yeah, you have 1 month to do it. Any questions? Of course, there's going to be questions. Like, you have to make sure when they do say they have no questions, they honestly have no questions. Like, they fully ingest all of the context. And then set the clear expectations, like, one, this should do this. Like, when I do this, it should do this. When I do this, it should do this. When I click this button, it should do this. This is what we're trying to achieve. Not just for engineers, but because this setting very clear expectations and requirements help QA guys to know where to focus their testing efforts. So your expectations should be very clear. Build a sense of trust and responsibility between you and your developers. Like this one that are saying, yes, QA, was I supposed to talk about QA? Please say no. Please say no.
No, I'm just resounding the fact that, clear expectation would also help your QA guy when he wants to carry out testing. Yeah.
God is great. Okay. Yeah, build a sense of trust and responsibilities with your developers. So here's the thing. People find it's easier for people, general human psychology, it's easier for people work better in an environment of trust. People find it easier to do things for people they trust. That is why one way to lose the trust of your employees as an employer of labor is to not pay them. That one way to mess up your team as an employer is to not pay them their salary and not say anything about it. My God, you will watch performance go from wherever it is to zero in the shortest time possible. Yeah, it's because they begin to lose their trust in you because it's a charter, it's a deal. You're supposed to do this and you're supposed to pay them. So if you stop paying them, they'll begin to be like, oh, who is this person and why is he tripping? And yeah, they begin to look for an out. So build a clear sense of trust and responsibility. Make them understand that, one, I am on your side, but we have to do this and this and this. Make them understand that if they do their part, you will be fine. And really mean it, because you don't be meaning it. It's like, developers feel like if I do my work, you will give me more work. Here you get. And I'm not out here looking for more work. The work I have is enough. So I want to still be able to I think giveaway, they will like you, but it doesn't mean they will do more work. Matter of fact, they may actually do less work. But I think that sense of responsibility and trust so it's like, I trust you to be professional enough to know what to do. And it's simple. If we're going to do this week, if you wrap it up in 2 days, you are fine. Enjoy the rest of your week, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think develop that system of trust. And this is where I would say, do not hesitate to let go, i.e. fire anybody you can't trust on your team. So here's the thing. When you have a slip up on a team, I won't fire you the first time. I probably won't fire you the second time. I would fire you when it becomes oh, this is a problem and there's nothing we can do about it. Because at that point, the trust is gone. I can't work with someone who, I can't work with you if I can't give you a responsibility, a task, and go to sleep knowing you would accomplish it. If I wanted to worry about it, then I won't hire anybody. I'll just worry about it. So make them know that the reason you are giving them is because you trust that they can accomplish it. And there would be consequences if they break that trust. So like, yeah. Please do not hesitate to give reviews, positive or negative. Yeah. And yeah, to balance out the other end of letting engineers be engineers, you have to do your best to keep your engineers as track as much as possible. Let me break it down to you. Most of the times, 80% of the times, engineers are not doing your work. They're experimenting with new tech on your work. Like, an engineer can come up and be like, yeah, so this thing we want to do, and let's use this tool for it. And your question will be like, why? And the guy's answer will give an answer, but the truth of the matter will probably be he was reading about it over the weekend and it feels a good idea. So again, while you should grant them the creative and the engineering liberty to be themselves and to explore new stuff, as long as it would not add anything to the delivery time. It's like if you're going to whatever tool you want to use, one, you are going to be responsible for the evolution of the feature. Nothing will do this feature. That's one. Two, nothing will do the timeline you've already agreed to. I'm not giving you more time to experiment with tools. As so. Three, you must carry everybody along. People need to learn this thing. You must be ready to pay the price to teach them. That's how you make sure you keep people on track. Because if there isn't a new tool, QA guys will have to go and learn how to set up tests for those tools. So if you're using a new tool, you need to be ready to teach QA guys how to set up tests for those tools. You need to be ready to teach what's it called? Field. Let's assume a backend guy decide that okay, I want to use RPC. You need to be ready to teach front-end guys how to use RPC. You need to be ready to teach back-end QA guys how to test RPC. You need to be ready to communicate basically that, oh, okay, there's no postman collection again. This is what people will be saying. Those kind of things. You need to be able to invest into bringing the entire team up to speed. So that's how you keep people on track. Make them understand like this is the decision and this is why you're sticking to it or not. And very important point, avoid lengthy, pointless meetings with too many participants. My number one rule of thumb is for every participant in a meeting, so here's the thing, at the end of the day, any meeting that has more than 3 people, notice at the end of the day, most of the conversation will revolve around 3 people. It doesn't really get much bigger than that. It's like 3 people who do most of the talking. And I feel if that's the case, then the rest of the people do not need to be there. Context can flow through them otherwise. They should spend their time actually doing work or something. I keep my stand-ups to 1 minute per person. So if there's 10 people on the call, if I'm doing stand-ups, it's going to be 10 minutes. If you come late, you are going to not be there. So yeah, the meeting should not be lengthy and should not have too many participants. People want to know that they actually are doing something. Most of the times I've worked on like very huge. I've actually worked at only one very big company. Like when I mean very big, I mean very, very big. We're 11 engineers on my team. There were other PMs and other people, 11 engineers, and there were 4 teams. So yeah. But it was a lot of work because apparently the company was almost a unicorn then, and we're still less than, I think we're less than 60 engineers. So it was a lot of work. But even at that, there was this huge company-wide meeting that I only went for once. And once I went for it was because the week before, they called me like, oh, we've never seen you on the meeting. What's happening? So I joined the next week. Basically, people want to know that their time is being used well and that they matter. Those kind of meetings make people feel like they're less important in your company because basically they don't get to see anything, they don't get to do anything, they just stay there and watch the important people talk while they don't do anything. So it doesn't do well for your team spirit. It doesn't. Your team should work like communities, like tribes, like friend groups. That does a lot of group good. So yeah, I think that would be all. Thank you. Questions and comments can come in now. If you want to reach out to me, my Twitter is 100_crown, and my email is jos@gmail.com. Thank you.
Very short class, but honestly, I learned a lot. I made a video of you that I'm going to post to embarrass you, but no problem.
A video of me.
Thank you so much, Josiah. Oh my God. I was just nodding my head throughout this class because I could relate to every single thing that you have spoken about. Every single thing. Gosh. Oh my God. So please, Josiah, please just send this link to the slide to me so that I can share it with everyone. Just share with me on WhatsApp and I'll be able to share it. I don't know if you guys have any question. I have my own question because I'm a PM learning from a senior engineer. I definitely have my own question. So before we go on with questions, iPhone, please can you rename yourself for attendance purposes? Please can you just rename yourself? I will definitely bring you up to ask your question. So my own question is, imagine that you are working on a team where it's almost like you have to consistently go with what I'm someone that is very collaborative, and you from this question you know that's actually a real life thing. I'm someone that's very collaborative. When we want to prioritize tasks or we want to even define the flow of things, I always have my senior engineers on the team. We look at different ways that something can go, and then we all agree on the best thing. And I noticed that doing that, like carrying my engineers along, actually makes my work easier because they will be excited to build what I've given to them rather than just handing it down to them. Yeah. But there's this scenario that has been repeating itself where, my stakeholders, my senior management are just bombarding us with feature requests. And I've just been almost like a project manager, defining features and just handing it over to the engineers. And my engineers have been asking for optimization. They want time to actually clean up their code. What can I do? I'm trying to satisfy both people, both my senior management, and I'm trying to satisfy my engineers because both front end and back end are like, we need at least 2 sprints to optimize our code, to do a few cleanups here and there because we've just been building features. So how do you think I can go about it? Yeah.
Can you get your senior management to hire more people, to hire an ad hoc team? If no, then because I'm a technical person, what I would normally do, this sounds criminal, but I'll say it anyways. What I would normally do is I will plan a slip up in production. Something will go wrong. Yeah. I will plan something.
Major downtime.
No, not major. So it won't be something disastrous. It won't be like something that's like a security, like people taking money. Yeah, a good thing would be like a downtime, like, oh, we can't access the app for like 1 hour. They will raise concerns. People would want to know what is up. So
yeah.
It's what.
And then when they call
So
me
like
meeting to say, oh, what caused that? I'll be like, well, we've been asking for time, to do this. And
definitely. So of course, again, I know now I am now the senior stakeholder, and I know I'm going to reap what I've sown. I've prepared myself for it. But as you are not, how would I put it? As you're not a technical person. So I think here's the thing. I think all you can do is explain the scenario too, because I believe if you have a very good relationship with your engineering leads and your senior engineers, they are much more reasonable than business people. Business people are very unreasonable, me inclusive these days. It's like I'm watching myself become all the things I hate, and I can't do anything about it. Like, it's paining me, but like I can't do anything about it. I'm becoming the kind of guy that will call somebody at 4 a.m. But it's the game is the game.
Don't play the game.
But if you speak to your senior engineers and you make them understand that, okay, you try and do what you can to buy time. Try and do what you can to buy time, and try and tell them that you try and do what you can to buy time. But if it's fair and if there's something they can do, they may look at working overtime and weekend to do the optimizations. Bing, bing, bing. Yes, I did the business stakeholder thing.
Oh my God.
They should look at working overtime and weekend. Like, you can talk to them politely. I don't know. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, you still have to get back to your business people and actually, like, put your feet down with them and tell them.
Yeah, I think I've gotten to that point already.
Tell them that they're actually towing a very, very. So when you do have a code base that is like, so most people think technical depth is just, oh, people want to make code fine. No, it's like when you do have a code base that is like messed up and people do not even know what they're doing, the day you would have a problem, and I'm not even saying it like if, because the day will definitely come.
This is a team that's not had a QA for 2 years, Josiah, by the way.
The day you would have a problem is like, my God, it's going to be a big problem. Nobody will sleep. So let's just take that one sprint or two sprint and tidy up their code and get back to. So I think it's a problem with like startup guys. I'm my own orientation is different because me, I honestly feel I don't believe in first mover advantage. I don't believe first to market gives you any advantage. I believe if you have a good product and you know how to sell it well, you are good. So I don't believe in rushing people. Everything must make sense. We'll go back again. Smart was, so first week when Smart went live, it was live for like a number of days. We got like sign-ups and whatnot. But then there was one particular error, like, you know what, take it down, put the waiting list back up. Let's get back to work. And after that, it was like waterfall of Wahala. After that same week, LaserPay announced that they are shutting down. So we have to redo our entire crypto implementation again. So it's problematic, but I'm not going to rush anybody. We'll do it when we do it. The market is not going anywhere. People will continue to buy and sell the internet. So yeah.
I mean,
you have to put your feet down with your your business people, and also get your engineers to be ready to, for the sake of their work anyways, like, do it the hard way. That would be my own advice.
Yeah, thank you so much, Josiah. Thank you. Because like you said, I definitely know that day is coming when a big downtime is going to happen. And I think if a stakeholder actually cares about his business, if he hears that, he would want to give it a second thought. So thank you. I won't go the criminal side, but I will go the other side that you mentioned. Thank you so much. All right. Someone's hand is
up. Better person than me.
Jemima, what's up? Good evening. Please, you can unmute and ask your questions.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Josiah. Really learned a lot. My question is, as a PM who is starting, I do not understand the relationships between a front-end dev's work and the back-end dev's work when building an app or anything, when I'm hearing APIs, when I'm hearing consume this, when I'm hearing like differentiating properly what backend does and what front end does to build something is still hazy and unclear to me. I would really appreciate any clarifications you can give.
Okay. Hi, Jemima. First of all, I did not know how to pronounce your name. Was Sengo, or I don't know. I wasn't going to try, but yeah. I think think back to what I said about client and server, right? So think about it like this. Your client is basically, so your front end is basically everything the user sees and the user interacts with. Usually the client app, the things that live in your browser, the things that live in your mobile app, the things that live in, hell, even the emails you receive from make up the front end because they contain link and they contain content. There's even a hack that people do. So because apparently people are not allowed to track emails, we're not allowed to track like emails at all. So what we do is we use images embedded inside. Legally, you're not allowed to track emails. You know that, yeah? Like you're not allowed to track emails. They're just supposed to send the email to the user, wherever they do it. So what people do is people embed an image inside the email. And when the image is loaded with a query, of course, the query string, then we know the user has opened the email. So when so basically those kind of things all make up what is called the front end. So yeah, the best part of things here is that you don't necessarily need to know any technical detail. You just have to know that the app, the part that the user interfaces with, that includes designs, that includes fetching of data, that includes most of the functionality that the user is going to work with anyway. That should be your first point of call when you're thinking about a feature. Okay, so I think we should make a form for this, or we should make a button for this. When the user clicks this, it does this. That should be the first place you think when you're thinking about a feature. And then from there, you keep working everything up to you progress to the other side. Here you get. And the back end deals with the data that we get, because by and large, your average application is just sending and receiving data, every kind of data. Data can be text, video, picture, money, metadata, symbols, and whatever. Yeah, so data can be anything. The data I'm coming. I'll still touch on this. I'm seeing a QA conversation going on in the chat. I'm coming. So the data you are sending to your server, because all of the data you're collecting from your user enters a detail in the thing, they click submit. When they submit that data, the data is going somewhere. Where the data is going to, the somewhere it is going to is the backend, aka the server. Remember, I spoke about client and server. Most times in the backend front-end relation, your front end is the client that just gets data from the server, interacts with those data, send data back to the server. Your business logic most times will live on the server. Your business logic, e.g., if you're a fintech company, the logic that make sure people cannot access their calorie-wise saving plan, that encrypts people's data information, that does the calculation of people's interest, that does the calculation of people's APY, all of that logic will live on the server. You don't put that kind of sensitive code on the app. That and the fact that usually it's very complex. I don't want to slow down the app. So yeah, client or front end is the things that people interact with directly, the things people see and interact with directly. Server or back end is the things people do not see that actually handles business logic. I think this is a problem with the whole front end, back end. And I don't know, I think Gladys, we've had this conversation before. I've said it many times that I believe in full stack, and I prefer full stack, especially for small teams, because I want to be able to think about the feature as one single feature end to end. I'm thinking about, let's assume it's like rice vest, or let me use piggy vest here. Everybody knows piggy vest. Let's assume I'm thinking about piggy vest, and I want to be able to create a new savings plan. I want to think about the feature from creating the plan, like entering my name and my details and clicking the button, to the plan actually creating on the back end. Product-wise, I want to be able to think about it as one feature. Here you get, and have one person implement it end to end. Even me as a product, as an engineer, it makes sense to me. Think about that as a single feature. Here you get. So I think these are like things you will need to, like, over time evolve in and be able to make these decisions on your own self. So but for the sake of this conversation, front end is what the user can see and the user can interact with. Back end is that part of your system that is hidden on a server, that most times a server or servers around the world that most times the users cannot see. Most times the users would not have any direct interaction with, but through the front end. So that's that, I guess.
Josiah, Jemima, I hope that he answered your question. Well, another way I like to look at it is, if you notice, they always say, oh, designers are the ones that are always clashing with front-end engineers. Well, that is because the designs made by the designers, the product designers, are always implemented or worked on by the front-end engineers. So the front-end engineers are literally the one building what your users can see. So after they are done building that, the place where you store your emails, the place where the database, I don't want to use the word buggy, but the not so attractive part that is actually making what your users see, that is making it work. That is what the back end guys do. Just like the name implies, there's the front end. That's the front, like what is in the front that your users can see. Then there's the back end, that's what at the back that your users can see. So that's basically how to know it. And as a PM that will be gathering requirements, it's kind of nice to just know how these things work, so that when you're getting updates, front end team says, oh, we're expecting endpoints from our backend guys, you don't look lost. Yeah, you know what the conversation is about. You don't really need to understand the nitty-gritty of what they are doing, but at least you can know what the flow of their development looks like. Yes, both of them actually write codes. Yes. So another question about that you said you were going to answer in the chat box. How are QAs important to teams? Does it have to do with the size of the team? Does it have to do with the complexity of the project? Does it have to do with the skill sets of the engineers? Yeah, so please answer that.
So again, in this conversation so far, you may have noticed I have tried my best to make sure my personal opinion like does not interfere, does not come in the way of things that I actually know to be true and legit. But on top of this QA matter, so I feel QAs are important the way. Don't get me wrong now. I'll say QAs are important the way wine is important. It's good, very, very good. But a team can 101% survive without them. Now, what I'm saying is, I'm saying a team can survive without dedicated QA people. I'm not saying a team can survive without actually testing the application. So you can survive without having people whose job it is to test your application, but you 101% have to test your application.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I do again, because I am again now on the business people side of things, so I understand their pains. I see with them, I see what they see. Is I try to hire people who I call engineers who can write tests. Because at the end of the day, for me, I am an engineer. And what I want to see is, one, this can work. This can work. This can work. Ele work. This one is working too. This one too is working. This one is not working, but we know why it's not working. We are going to fix it. This one is working. This one is working. That's all I want to see. And by and large, most product people, that's what they want to see too. Even you as a PM, that's what you want to see. So I think that's where your engineers that can write tests come into play. Like they will do that for you. Yeah, I think that's it. I have written many tests like it. So most times engineers would write unit tests anyways, depending on, please always make sure your engineers write unit tests. It's the least they can do. Make sure they write unit tests, make sure, yeah. So most times what QA guys will do is to write regression tests and end-to-end tests. Yeah. But by and large, if you have a senior engineer, you can make him write it too. It's like, that doesn't necessarily, if you have a senior engineer, you're not using like a junior, unit tests.
Yeah, Rose, define the
Rose, of the class. Unit test.
Maybe you can just define it again for people that
so, a unit test is a test that tests a single module. So if I write a function, I write the test to make sure you don't need to run the code to know that these functions work. Like it's like if I write like 5 functions, before I run the code and start trying each of the functions, that would take longer time. I should be able to write tests that feed them with sample inputs of different types, test all the edge cases and possible conditions, run all the 5 tests at once. Usually it will take like 10 seconds or something, and know that, okay, yes, these 5 functions or these 5 modules, they work. That's what unit tests do. Your engineers should write unit tests. Always make sure you try and ensure your engineers write unit tests. It's like, it's literally the least they can do. So for teams where you have a senior engineer, that is actually a senior engineer, that is not like you hire a senior engineer and you're using the person like a junior engineer, because there's no reason why a senior engineer should be doing stuff like implementing code that like change the color of a button. That's poor use of your senior's time. You can get them to do some quality assurance work, because their work is by and large improving process, improving quality of product. So yeah, you can get them to do QA work. Or hear me out, you the PM can write in E2E test. They are easy to write. They can be hard, but for most things, for most apps, yeah, there's a language called Gherkin. Gherkin is just like English. It's English like syntax, and you can map your Gherkin statements to almost every single test framework there is. So you just write Gherkin and you run the code and it generates tests for you for your specific platform. If you're working for like web, you're working for React, if you set up Cypress, you can write Gherkin. I think Cucumber is the Gherkin integration. Write Cucumber, install Cucumber, write Gherkin, and like you can look into the documentation for Gherkin, write Gherkin, and automatically take care of it for you. So yeah, that's that.
I will look into that. Yeah, I really like the fact that you spoke about unit testing. I mean, as a PM, you would do testing too, but it's basically acceptance. Yeah, I was just about to say acceptance criteria. You test for negative scenarios, you test for error messages.
So I feel so. Here's the so unit testing is unit testing is more on a code level. So by the time it gets to E2E testing, code stops being a factor. Is that this is the requirement that if this does this, this should do this. It doesn't matter how it is implemented. So it's like code is no more a factor at E2E test level. But so yeah, David, good one. Yeah, unit testing validates acceptance criteria on a code level. Yeah.
All right. So Alabi Mohammed said there's a lot to learn. Trust me, you will get there. Yeah, I transitioned. Well, personal story. I was Josiah's flatmate, so he was there with me during my sleepless nights. And now I've become him. I used to drag him for burning food, for having backache in his early 20s. I used to drag him for staying up all night and not sleeping, for not having good diets. But guys, that's my life. Somebody said that's my life. That's my life now. I literally just had my first meal of the day. You know, I now have backache. I was struggling in church to sit down. I don't cook. I burn food. I burn food literally once every month, sometimes twice in a month, depending on, see guys, that's your life.
So the crazy part of it is while my sleeping is still trash, but I think I eat better now and I don't burn food again. So life is cycle.
I will get
life is dice.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Josiah. This was so much fun. And I'm sure that in subsequent times, you know, when we have webinars, maybe we want to talk about some high-level stuff when, you know, people that are now working on real-life projects, we want to like go into the nitty-gritty, talk about high-level stuff, or maybe much more experienced designers, PMs, much more experienced PMs, and even software engineers. I'm sure that you won't call me. You're my guy, you cannot say no to me. So thank you so much. I hope that we all had fun on this class. I did, honestly. Thank you so much. He does not like LinkedIn, so if you want to give him a shout out, probably do it on Twitter. I don't know why.
No, I'm getting used to the LinkedIn.
You have no choice. Yeah, you are now a founder. You are so
So apparently, I'm supposed to be getting used to the LinkedIn thing, and I've tried. I've written like 2 articles this year, so I'm already tired.
Oh my God! He said this year.
And all. So
yeah, the name is Smarg. And the website is www.usesmart. Can you just type it for me, Josiah?
Yeah, okay.
And honestly, I go to check that website, and I'm just so proud. All right, to the founder.
So, I'm still settling into the whole LinkedIn thing, but you can message me on LinkedIn. I will try. I'm trying a lot these days. Like, I think I open it almost like the same way I open like Instagram now. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Let me know.
Just as an aside, I think it's going to be like a